Total War Pharaoh Dynasties. Who would have thought, right? Hi there everyone, my name is Niveen, I am Andy's wife, and while my husband is suffering through pneumonia, I thought I'd pick up the mantle and make sure the good word is delivered regardless. And let's get back to what really matters, the fact that Pharaoh Dynasties is fantastic. But why is that? When CA released Total War Pharaoh, I think a lot of us felt like we were in the darkest timeline. The first true historical game in years, and it was a total flop. A game that felt like it had cut corners and was lacking crucial features. I think this channel has spent enough time talking about those dark days in 2023, but I think it's important to note still, because what we've been shown is that CA overall, in terms of Warhammer DLC, but especially CA Sophia, as it relates to both Troy and Pharaoh, are capable of turning things around if given the time. Now, there are a lot of Total War games and DLC out there, but if you find those Steam prices a little too high for your liking, you can always find a discount on Instant Gaming. This is the world's biggest game key reseller where you'll find basically anything for any modern platforms, and in our case, that's Steam. And as you can see, even when there's no discount on Steam, Instant Gaming's got you covered with insane savings, even on brand new and upcoming titles. I've used it myself and I'm very happy with the offering, so make sure to check out Instant Gaming, especially if you've been looking for big savings in strategy games. And you can support this channel and the work that we do by using the link below. Now, what's fascinating is that I find Pharaoh to be a genuinely great Total War now, and it comes down to a few simple but crucial factors. Think of the map scope. As much as we love focused maps where everything feels more zoomed in the end nothing says Total War as much as an actual grand campaign whose area stretches as far to the west as it does to the east. An actual map that includes completely different cultures and peoples, and one that actually stretches across multiple regions, not something that just focuses on one or two. This grand campaign concept is nothing new. In fact, I think it's what makes Total War feel like Total War at its core. I mean, there's a reason why the original campaign of Rome, Medieval 2, Empire, and in more modern days, Warhammer 3's Immortal Empires are so beloved, right? It's because these campaigns, as opposed to Napoleon's Europe-only map or Warhammer 3's Realm of Chaos campaign, actually allows for a truly grand campaign that includes most of the world and allows for the clashes of cultures and empires from their various corners. This is what Total War Pharaoh in particular did not understand, which was especially disappointing after everyone and their mother pleaded for a full Bronze Age title after Troy. And now that Dynasties is out, it's become apparent how much better Total War games are when the scope is wider and the faction diversity is bigger. I think some of it is due to the player's imagination. It's just so much more fun to imagine taking Egypt across the known world all the way to Babylon and Greece, rather than simply into the narrow land of the Levant. Similarly, I love the idea of taking the Greek factions all the way east or south and exploring those faraway lands as arguably an underdog faction. In other words, a large scope is in itself what makes a true Total War title, and that's particularly why Pharaoh Dynasties is so much fun to play now. The second major aspect is that CA Sophia remembered and actually implemented systems that are quintessentially Total War, and they are twofold. Imagine this, Pharaoh Dynasties, as opposed to both Troy and Warhammer games, actually occur over the course of years. It's a simple concept, but it's very important because when we actually have years going by instead of just weeks or some abstract concept of time that doesn't really measure years, we can also start thinking about faction leaders, aging, and death. And this is when the family tree and actual dynasties are allowed to prosper again, exactly because of the passage of time. Family trees were essential in making games like Rome and Medieval 2 feel so immersive and RPG-like, and it's a major reason why Total War Attila was so much fun. Having actual family trees with built-in mechanics for managing new and old members is just what a Total War campaign should be all about. And whereas in Rome, having actual family trees with built-in mechanics for managing new and old members is just what a Total War campaign should be all about. In Rome, the mechanics were very limited, and where Medieval 2 fleshed it out with manual royal marriages, Pharaoh Dynasties takes a lot of inspiration from those games, but fleshes out the actual dynasties part. So depending on what you've accomplished or which defeats you've experienced, all those aspects will factor into determining what your dynasty will be known for. The fact that it's also possible to marry anyone from any culture is brilliant. But more than just the marriage part, we also have the adoption of characters and the infiltration of other dynasties. Having, for example, a family member of your own become the faction leader of another kingdom. It's a system that comes closer than most in Total War's history in realizing that family tree dynasty potential. And it's another important aspect of why dynasties manage to turn things around this much. In other words, Pharaoh Dynasties is now a legitimately great game, one I've loved playing both with and without mods. But the question we might want to ask ourselves is, what does Dynasties mean for the future of Total War? CA Sophia has proven themselves more than capable of creating an experience that resonates with the historical fan base after all. But will this have an impact on CA overall in their upcoming games? Well, I think there are some good signs for future Total War games no matter what they are, and this is why. No matter what you think of Total War Troy or Pharaoh Dynasties overall, a great aspect of these games is that CA has leaned into an aspect that was missing from older games for the most part, namely the mechanics that made each faction more or less distinct from the next. At least in Dynasties, factions within the same culture group share similar traits and deities from the start, but can then branch off with different abilities in terms of ancient legacies to make them more unique. But let me say something, and this may shock you, but the truth is sometimes harsh. Warhammer 3, by way of the Empire, offers the most historical approach to a medieval European empire in all of Total War. The Empire is of course based on the HRE, seeing as it is a loose federation of imperial states. But you, playing as Karl Franz, must manage this mess just as a German emperor would have to in history. Warhammer 3 offers the Empire unique ways to unify itself though, or to bring the various members closer to each other. The loyalty mechanic, which determines the state's loyalties to you, the influence mechanic, which allows you to send or receive aid to and from the member states, and of course the general systems of integration, bringing states back from the brink by giving back lost cities and confederations, which in the end can bring everyone together in full. And all these systems simulate a fractured empire that can be made whole again, and in my opinion should be used as a fundamental framework for how an actual Holy Roman Empire mechanic can be created for a future Medieval 3. So we know that CA has learned how to make unique factions. In theory, making England, France, and Byzantium feel unique in Medieval 3 should be no issue at this point. But what they also need to remember is that sometimes universal mechanics are just as important as unique ones. Population systems that work more or less the same for everyone, deep trade or caravan systems that are not locked behind some unique ability, just generic mechanics that help make the overall game experience feel deeper and more immersive no matter who you're playing as. Because Total War shines the brightest when these come together, and while certain games do some of them better than others, I feel like none of these games thus far have managed to truly combine them in an ideal way. Pharaoh Dynasties might honestly be the one that comes the closest because of everything it's added, but it's still not fully realized even now. When it comes down to it, I've had a ton of fun with Dynasties over the past months, and I think CA is on the right path. But what's crucial, which we've talked a lot about before, is that CA needs to take this knowledge with them. Just once, I'd like to see CA know what they did right in the past and bring those innovations forward and make a game that actually features a bunch of beloved features. Because nobody expects or even wants you to reinvent the wheel for every title. There's a reason people love the old games. They found aspects they loved and would love to see again in the future. And that's what I think Pharaoh Dynasties represents, a showcasing of what people in many cases have asked for and what I believe they want to see return in future titles, at least as far as the concept of mechanics goes. I mean, wouldn't it be nice with a Rome or Medieval 3 or Empire 2 where factions felt distinct, but shared in some universal campaign mechanics which made everyone interesting to play on a deep level? Let me know your thoughts on the video in the comments, make sure to leave a like, and of course subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!